water. Usher, be
All
don't come back.
right. How fun. Let me see what options do. Okay. Does that look better? Should we do this one?
I like that one.
Yeah. Hello, everyone who is tuning in to the Life of Books. Welcome. I'm going to give you guys and those who are tuning in a couple of minutes to kind of log in. We're excited to talk about our book of the month. So let's just give the peoples a couple of minutes to log in and tune in and all of that. And while we're doing that, I'll go ahead and share it on my socials. Share it on my socials.
I just got it.
All right, so we got a couple people joining in. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Like they do at what's the name of the restaurant? I'm sorry. Welcome, 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 welcome. Who does it?
Carolina Kitchen.
I keep forgetting Carolina Kitchen. I keep wanting to say Old Country Buffet. I'm sorry. No disrespect to neither one, but I forget. But yeah, we're excited to have everybody. Welcome to June's edition of the Life of Books. I think we can go ahead and just get started. We are happy to have you joining us. My name is Hadassah DeBush, and you are into the Life of Books with A Woman's Voice Matters. And today we have, I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and introduce yourself, no particular order, whoever wants to go first.
Hi, I am Tashia.
Hi, I'm Sharice.
And we also have a couple of members of Women's Voice Matters who are not with us today, but you'll catch them later in the year at maybe some of our other podcasts or conversation, or maybe the next Life of Books. But want to give honor to our other board members and members of the dream team of A Woman's Voice Matters, giving a shout out to Diane Smith, Marcy Thompson, Charmonique Bynum, Laura Scott, Talia Johnson, Mika Woods, and of course, saluting our founder, Nakia Wright, who is heavy on this campaign trail and trying to secure this win for our upcoming election in Prince George's County District 6. That is, I don't want to get the cities wrong, but it is in Prince George's County of District 6, and early voting is July 7th through the 14th. Yes, I'm going to put a plug in there because I believe in supporting those who you admire and those who are worthy of being recognized. And she is doing a great work in the Prince George's County, and I believe that she would be an excellent county council for the district. So make sure you go out to vote, make sure you register to vote, and come July 7th through the 14th, join the early voting, and then on July 19th for voting as well. So make sure you do that if you're in the Prince George's County area. But without further ado, let's jump into kind of sharing why we're here today, what book we're discussing today, kind of our overall topics. And for those of you who've been following us on the journey, first of all, thank you. And second of all, you know that we kind of just love to discuss a book and talk about some of our favorite topics in the book, things that resonate with us. Feel free to chime in and share your comments. Hey, Charmy. Feel free to chime in and share comments and questions, whatever feedbacks you want to give about the book if you've read it as well. And we'll go from there.
Tommy mentioned that the sound is a little in and out. Oh.
Let me see if it's my volume. Okay. I hope that's better. All right. let's keep going. But yeah, so this book of the month was recommended by one of our Dream Team members. It is called Miss Me With That by Rachel Lindsay. And this is a wonderful book. But before I give my, overall summation of the book and kind of just, chat about it, a little backstory to Rachel Lindsay. She was on The Bachelor, and then she was also a lead and became Bachelorette. So that is that popular show where there are several contestants wanting to win the heart of the lead on the show. So in her case, when she did The Bachelor, it was for a gentleman, and then when she did Bachelorette, there were about, I think it's 21 or 31 other men who were competing to win her heart. So that is Rachel Lindsay, and she is kind of sharing like a tell-all and just her life before The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and kind of like where she is now, which is a phenomenal read. But let's jump into Tasha.
She was the first Black.
Yes.
First Black. That deserves mention.
Female.
So that first Black woman as the Bachelorette. But Tasha, I'm gonna let you go ahead and share your thoughts on the book and kind of some things that you liked, and share with us.
All right, good. So I will say that the book, it was hilariously messy at times. Reading the book, you got to see an intimate behind the scenes of the show, or reality shows of The Bachelorette. I think it was a very good read. But I think you have to be maybe a fan of the show, or kind of watch the show, because there was moments in some of the stories I wanted to just go binge watching, like, okay, wait, I got to put a name with the face. Who's Peter, or who's Rick, or, but it was a no nonsense kind of book that it was good. It was a really good read. It was good to read her essay, her story behind, just sometimes you don't see into the celebrities' memoirs of being on these shows. So I thought it was a really good read. I liked the book. I have a newfound respect for Rachel Lindsay. Some of the relationships were relatable. And you kind of saw people's toxic traits, and it was a plethora of emotions, and just it was a must read if you are a fan of the show, if you plan on watching the show, or if you just want to learn more about how she conquered and how she managed being on that reality show and all the things that entail and went into it. It was definitely down to earth.
For sure. I absolutely agree. Sharice, what did you think of the overall book?
I have to agree with Tashia. It was a good read. I liked how she showed like her life with her family, where she started before she started the show. She got the blessings, from her family first. It was like, she had relationships. She was trying to find love. She found it on the show. But then it was like, on the show, it just like, if it was a show that I watched, it opened your eyes to like, okay, reality shows, they're scripted, but her being the first Black female to do the show, it just opened your eyes to see like behind the scenes, that she brought some things out that, like, oh, okay, this really does happen. That she brought out, that she kept some things that she did not want to bring forth, that some racial things that happened, with her, that, was surprising with some of the cast members, like they brought some Black, men on there, and it was like, some of them hadn't even dated Black women before. And it's like, okay, well, how did you, cast them if they never dated? So, that was surprising. They didn't even know how to react to her. Yeah. So it was just, just surprising. And then how she dealt with it. Absolutely. So.
No, I agree, especially seeing one of the chapters, she notes how, okay, now that, being from the perspective of one who was competing for the man's heart versus now being the lead and other are competing for my heart, she now realized that she had the power and now can kind of just dictate how she wanted her show to go or how she envisioned it. Like there were a couple of things she said, I don't want to implement this, but I also felt was important to note was the power, how we're always saying on this platform of being the answer you've always wanted. And in the book, she also discusses how, she never watched The Bachelor. She wasn't a fan of the show or anything like that. And she gives this very, very honest review of reality TV, which I think is worth talking about. But when we get to that chapter, I will gladly share more input on that. But how she shares how the importance of wanting to be the answer that you want to see, or the answer that you've always wanted or wanted to be. So she never envisioned being on The Bachelor, wasn't a fan of the show, and she had this her perception of reality TV, but seeing how she came and turned that around. To give this illustration, this demonstration for national TV, for audiences to view Black women in a different light. Seeing her do that is something that makes her, honestly, she should be in the history books for it, because she really changed the game in simple terms. She changed the game. So kudos to Rachel. I agree with both of you guys on just your overview and your take of the book. But for me, if I could just wrap this book into kind of like one and say, what I felt, the gist of it, or what really sounded an alarm for me, was just how powerful a Black woman's voice is. It felt so relatable. A lot of the discussions that she had. Hello, Miss Linda White. The name of the book is Miss Me With That by Rachel Lindsay. I'm reading comments. Please feel free, drop your questions in your comments as we go. We don't follow any particular format. But yeah, the book was also eye-opening, very engaging for sure. And I love how she tracks her life, like from beginning to end, and being able to really just share the important parts of her life and really just bring life a new perspective for readers to understand, from her view, and just, being raised in Texas, and when she goes to Wisconsin, and she does it in a very respectable way, which I thought was very nice. But overall, the book for me, I called it Black Facts. And it was Black knowledge as well. There's an awakening involved in this book. Like if there's something in you that says, I didn't see it that way. Or maybe I will look at television this way, or reality TV in another way. Or maybe I'll use my influence in a different way. So it makes you question a little bit how you use your influence and how you want to show up in settings where you might be the only Black woman in the room. So we'll dive into more of that. But that was my take on the book overall. But let's jump right on in. Tasha, do you want to kick us off with maybe a page or a chapter? This is also worth noting. This book does not have chapters. So whereas we would say chapter 10, chapter 2, it doesn't have any numerical chapters. So they're all topics. So we kind of got to go by like whatever the subject is in that particular topic. So just wanted to note that.
Right. And that was another thing too. So you had to kind of highlight and go through and put your sticky notes, because it wasn't that chapter. So you have to go by the stories. You want to start with giving up the ghost? Did anyone go before?
Oh yeah. Well, I read that top. But can you tell me what page that is?
66. Sharice, did you have something before 66?
Nope.
Okay. So I wasn't familiar with the term ghost. Well, I've heard the term ghosting, but I didn't know what it was. Like I don't know if I've ever been ghosted, or so I don't know what ghosting was. So that was an interesting chapter for me of that particular story of giving up the ghost, because I didn't know what it was to be ghosted. So I gained more knowledge of what it is to be ghosted from chapter 66. And it was like, most women have a story about getting caught up with someone who ghosts them. And so that was my favorite. Start out with that one. She said, I hate how much I love you, but I just can't let you go. And that was from How I Hate That I Love You by Rihanna. It's a song, Rihanna. So I had to go find the song to kind of put it. I mean, this book had me all over the place. I was like, okay, I got to go look at the show. I got to go listen to the song. So that was my chapter with that one. why not just give into your temptations and get with a bad boy? And everybody likes a bad boy or girl, so they're known for choosing the bad one over the nice guy. So how she told the story about that, this was my overall trap. So you got to read that one, because she said she was in Dallas from New Height, and this is where she started talking about Rick's being on Rick's arm, and how the social status in Dallas was. And we drove up to the event in the Crown Victoria. So I was like, I remember having a friend who drove those cars. I mean, this guy had every color of those Crown Victorias. So this that was a car, wasn't it? So it was just so tickling to read all of this. Like, yeah, Rachel, you can kind of ping her as the roundaway girl.
Yeah. I love the fun that she has. Like,
yes, she's
sharing,
definitely a storyteller. She's a great storyteller.
Was there something you wanted to share in the ghosting topic, Cherise?
No.
Underestimated her obsession. Oh, I thought you were talking to me. I'm sorry. How she underestimated her obsession with.
Yeah, that's true. You don't realize how much of a connection you may have to someone, and it took her a while to acknowledge that. As I think, one of the things that also I think was important to know, even when she's talking about her time on The Bachelor, and one thing that is just true is she's human, and just like we all are. I think that sometimes, because she made a really, really good point, and someone said this recently as well, is that a lot of celebrities, they don't ask to be the Black representation or the representation of a particular group or whatever. And it's like, while yes, they don't ask for it, the world sometimes already puts you in that position where you become the representation. So whatever you do sometimes, especially being in a Black or whatever, sometimes we're at a disadvantage, and there's always this feeling that we have to prove ourselves or prove this and that. But it's like the proving is more so to say, no, I'm not who you're making me out to be, not to prove that I fit or that I belong, but more so to prove that no, I belong here. And nothing is going to shake me from being in this position that I'm in. And I'm going to represent my being Black very proudly, and one of the things that she mentioned in ghosting, this set topic, was how, and what I noted was how each life experience comes full circle, and how sometimes the experience that we think are just like, what is this here for? What is the point of this lesson? I feel like it's a complete waste of time. Like, why did I do this? There are some moments in life where you realize that's why I went through that. And this was a perfect illustration of that, this ghosting chapter, where she was ghosted by this person who she had an obsession with and an infatuation, which kudos for honoring and acknowledging that.
Right.
People don't have the courage to tell the truth about, listen, this is unhealthy for me. But kudos to her for that. But she talked about how being ghosted actually served to her advantage. And on page 78, she says, the full circle moment came when I told this story at an audition. So she shared this very ghosting story at an audition, and the gig was to co-host an MTV show called Ghosted. When I landed the job, I called Rick. So this is the same person who she had an infatuation with. All things happen for a reason. I said, thanks for doing me dirty. It got me this show.
Yeah.
And in the following paragraph, it really just ties in exactly, like, for anybody who might be heartbroken from being ghosted, or it doesn't have not always tied to relationships. Sometimes it could be on a job, or sometimes it could be it could be in family. Ghosting can happen in so many different formats, so many different ways, not just relationships. And she says, however, I empathize with how challenging it can be to communicate when your heart is on the line. It already requires time and effort to cultivate a self-awareness that allows you to be honest with yourself about what you need and desire in an intimate partnership. And then it takes both courage and practice to communicate those wants and needs to the person you're dating, who has wants and needs for their own. And here's her comment to Rick and to, just being ghosted. So miss me with that ghosting. In fact, let it miss you. Ghosting is the easy way out. And if the person you're interested in prefers emotional shortcuts, the best thing to do when they take the one closest to, the best thing to do when they take the one closest to the door is to thank them. when the ghost gets going, let the ghost stay gone.
Right.
It was funny you said a word that was that stood out. Courage, just courage to even continue to pursue. And then prepared her for the show because she said although she was talking to Rick or she was obsessed with Rick, she still talked to Mike. And so all they're trying to be a one guy gal, she was talking about how they helped her to get ready for the show too, because she's just like, although Rick ghosted her, she still had Mike
on the side. Exactly.
Right.
Well, share one of your favorite topics or passages of the book that you felt was, something to know, to talk about.
So mine was, you say he's just a friend. That was 91. That chapter, because she lost her best friend for dating when she moved to, I got to read because I had read this for a minute, when she moving from Texas to Wisconsin.
Right.
She was there by herself and she had another boyfriend there in college and she still had her best friend.
Yeah.
And she lost her best friend because of her boyfriend.
Yeah.
This one I was mad. This chapter I was mad at her because she lost her best friend because of her boyfriend. I would have went with my best friend because he had been there from the beginning till what chapter were we in? Till this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? Till we got to page 90, to this chapter. I was mad at her. I was telling her off because I'm like, dude had been, I'm trying to think of what his name is. Like I said, I had read this quite a while ago. Let me see. I had marked my little page. What was his name? Oh my gosh.
Was it in reference to the Sex and the City scenes?
Yes. So I was just mad at her because she left her best friend for her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yep, Jeff.
Yeah.
And Jeff was a butthole anyway.
Jeff was
he was.
But I like their relationship. I like their.
Yeah, I did too. But I would have.
Need a Jeff.
Straight for the jugular, and sometimes you need that friend. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, but he was there. I still would have been there with my best friend because he was there for her for everything. And I think I would have chose my best friend because after she lost her best friend, she lost her boyfriend too. So you lost both of them.
Exactly.
And you had no one else to go to.
She never rekindled a relationship with Jeff.
Yeah, I wouldn't either because she done her dirty. He didn't want to be bothered with her.
And for context, this chapter is talking about, one of the parts of the chapter 2 is talking about the importance of male friendship, female friendship, but opposite sex. Let me say that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because growing up, at least from my perspective, there was a saying my dad used to say. It's like, I can't mimic his Haitian accent, but he would say real strict or real strong. Guys and girls are gas and matches. That's how you say it in English. In Creole, of course, it's got a lot more spice to it. But in English, but it's like gas and girls, women and men are like gas and matches. Like that's when you're growing up to say that you can't have male as friends. Now, granted, we had a few male friends because that's who we grew up with and whatever. So my father would never think anything of that. But I felt like, me growing up in that with that thought and with that mindset really didn't work to my advantage in no way, because it kind of makes you see the opposite sex like kind of like, oh my God, all you want from me is, to come and get me or something like that. When the reality is there are some comments or just some moments that, or some advice that would really best suit you coming from someone of the opposite sex. So it is important to have healthy male friendships.
Mhm.
Not everybody is looking to get you or whatever, or looking for a romantic relationship. Sometimes it really is just a friendship where, listen, I want to be able to share some advice with you, or I'm going through this situation or whatever. Can you share your perspective? And you would benefit a lot from, being a woman, benefiting from a male perspective. And I don't know if any of you guys had that experience, or if having male relationships, being women, was that something that was celebrated or welcomed in your homes? And
Yeah, I've had male friends that were just friends and helped me, like, advice before, getting married. Help with advice with other males that, if I went on a date, just like with Rachel, with her male friend, her and that guy never seeked a relationship.
Right.
He was her confidant, helped her with relationships. And hey, and that's cool, because guess what? Sometimes you need that male, that male advice that from someone that doesn't want to have that relationship with you, and then that you could see, the signs. And hey, I don't think that there's, nothing wrong unless you have that understanding from your significant other.
Yeah.
And now if you have that where you can't have that relationship, yeah, hey, cut it off. But I don't really see an issue with having, a friend of the opposite sex, if that's all that, that it is.
Absolutely.
I definitely think you can have a healthy relationship with the opposite sex, with it being being strictly platonic, where there's no type of attraction or
Right.
anything involved. But yeah, a healthy relationship with the opposite sex, it benefits you.
Mhm.
She said that from a Hill Hopper quote: "Men and women can absolutely be friends, and that's what we need to be.
Mhm.
Part of the problem is that we aren't friends enough. Our
Yeah.
relationships are negotiable, and that is not friendship."
That is so
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
I love
Hill
That's
Hopper. Yeah, she said that. Hill Hopper said that. I love Hill Hopper.
Charmy will appreciate a quote from one of the topics. I can't wait to get to it, but I'm going to wait to savor it, because she actually quoted a line from Grey's Anatomy that when I was watching Grey's Anatomy very heavily, I've not caught up with the show, and I think the last several seasons, but there was a line, and the minute I heard it, I texted Charmy and said, "Oh my God, like this line is so amazing." But when we get to that, I'll do that, and I probably should share it now that I've alluded to it, and kind of just
right.
what was the quote?
Go right ahead.
Sorry, this is me being all over the place when it comes to there's no specific flow. This is just us having fun and just having a conversation about just the book and what we felt was important, or what we felt was worth sharing. But before we go to another section, that same chapter, there was a line that she said that kind of sums up, just friendships in general, whether it be of the opposite sex or the same sex. A true friend, regardless of gender, is someone you take a stand for when confronted with a partner's insecurity. And I feel like just that one line is someone you take a stand for. It's someone you take a stand for. Like, no, I know my friend. I know her character. Like, I won't ever let anyone, see her in another light, or for something she might have said to be miscommunicated, or for her to come off as being misrepresented in any way. It's you just coming to your friend's defense because I know you and I know your works, and that is a true friend.
And I think that's why she didn't rekindle her friendship, couldn't be rekindled, because she knew he knew what their friendship was, and she did too. And she took it there because of her boyfriend. If you knew what your true friendship was, why would you allow your boyfriend to mess that up? If you knew that there was nothing, going on, why didn't you speak up?
Yeah.
If it was, I'm not going to lose a good friend, knowing that there's nothing going on over you seeing a text or something like that for someone that, that had my back,
But it also speaks to how, when it just goes to like, when you haven't had so many experiences in life, or just when you're a little younger, sometimes you find that you make choices or whatever, you learn from them, but there are some choices you're just like, not necessarily that they follow you, but it just really goes by the lack of experience. Let me sum it like that, or just the lack of.
It froze, honey.
The connection kind of dropped, but that was my 2 cents on that as well. It's just sometimes you when something is new or when a relationship is new or whatever, you sometimes find yourself doing or going to the extreme or whatever and neglecting the important parts. And I think at the time just didn't know how to be a friend. And I wonder, maybe now I hope they did rekindle, and life after this book is a lot sweeter because I thought they did have a good relationship. Although I completely agree with you, Sharice, that there were moments where it was just like, huh, are you sure about this?
So even
Jeff was being a hater. He was being a hater.
Right. With the choosing of the two, did it value the friendship any less? I see people, or I've heard of people choosing family sometimes over relationships, or kids, or choosing the person over the kids or something like that. So sometimes I don't know why they, does it devalue the actual relationship, and why do you have to choose?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeff was just being a hater. I think he was jealous of that relationship.
Let's just call it.
Jeff just didn't want to see you with it. That's what we say. You just don't want me to be happy.
Right. Exactly.
But no, you made a good point. That is true. The choosing and that's the word I was trying to get to, is more so you're just don't have experience, or you're just kind of like everything's new and you want somebody to do things your way or whatever. You can't say, hey, you know what, your friend's just like head over heels, and you just kind of be like, all right, try to tell you. Sometimes you gotta let people just experience some things and still be there as their friend. But the choosing part,
right,
as you can stay, because sometimes some people are just not ready to hear the truth. So.
Yeah,
it happens because some of your relationships take a strain. When you get a new friend or a new boyfriend, whatever, you start neglecting your girlfriend that you usually hang out with all the time. And like, girl, where you been? Or since you've been with him, you've been moving a little funny. So it happens. It puts a strain on relationships sometimes, but you have to find some sort of balance. Like, no, I'm hanging out with my girls today, or I hang with, or they should respect that. No, I can't go. What's that Jill Scott song? She said she was going out. She couldn't hang with the girls. So I can't remember what it is, but about not tonight. She's going with her man or something, or coming through. But sometimes relationships do strain when you enter into a new type of relationship or covenant or something like that. So you have to find ways to make sure that it doesn't.
Yeah, the balance, just like you said, is finding the balance between the two.
Yeah.
And Jeff probably to respect that more if she was, making room for everybody.
Exactly.
He wasn't right for her, as we know.
That didn't even last, Rachel, right? Well, Rachel did not stop there, did she?
Right.
One of my favorite topics or the discussions from the book, and there really are many, was I think it's 41, where it says, I want my reality TV. And this is the chapter preceding that I think it's the one where it references the Flavor of Love show. Let me just make sure I got that. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I was hoping I had that right. Okay. So all right. So my comment's probably gonna lump a little bit.
She froze up again.
Did you do anything in Into Sanity? Okay. Page 137. Was that before what you was talking about, Heidi?
It's page 40. We said 137.
Which one did you say?
No, not that. No, that one's good too, but not that one. There was it's one where she references like the Flavor of Love show, but
that's on 40 on 41. Oh no, that's 41. Flavor of Love, I Love New York, For the Love of Ray J.
I'm looking right at it.
Got it. Okay.
Page 41. That's exactly what I'm at. I was looking for the quote at the top because I remember it saying the Flavor Flav, and I'm looking for it. And this one says, and this is no shade to the Flavor Flav or his previous show. The quote at the top by Mark Anthony says, "The problem isn't Flavor Flav. The problem is Flavor Flav becomes a stand-in for the one or two Black people you see, and a figure like Flavor Flav takes on more importance than he should." And that kind of references that comment that I made about, her will to become the answer that she was looking for, or the answer that she didn't know she would become when it came to reality TV. It's shattering that glass of people's limited perspective when they see Black people on television. They only see, what is being presented, these reality TVs where people are, maybe loud or considered boisterous or just, contentious, or all of this, or, these fights that happen or whatever. And it's like, that doesn't define the Black majority. That doesn't define Black people entirely, and it really doesn't define that individual. I think we all know or realize that reality TV is anything but reality. A lot of it is scripted. So,
right.
But for people for these shows to continue to portray that these are, this is real life and this person's really like that. It's like, I don't believe that. Or because when you actually meet the person or see them, they're completely different. They're like this kind being that you're like, oh my God, like you're nothing like the reality show. There was a housewife that was at an event that I think Woman's Voice was around, and on TV, this person is like, oh my God, she's like, she is it, and she's hot, she's spicy. So you think every time you meet her, she's gonna be this person. When you see her, she was just this kind individual. She had a conversation with me on the elevator, like I was a real person, not like, oh, this is somebody who's just gushing over me. I didn't do any of that. I'm not star-studded kind of person. But just a kind-hearted person, like completely different to who she is on reality TV, and it just clicks that, okay, this is her job, like she's paid to do, so it doesn't define her, nor does she represent, or if she was to be one of the ones who like has all the cat fights or whatever on TV, it doesn't define the Black majority or just the Black population. And this chapter kind of talks about how when she first watched reality TV, because she wasn't new to, it wasn't something she was used to. But watching Flavor Flav and the I Love New York and things like that, and seeing how the environment where she was in was predominantly white, that was their only touch, or I guess their only, the only time they would be connected to a Black person. So whenever they see someone on TV, they're like, oh my God, so maybe all Black people act this way or whatever. So when they see someone, they think, oh yeah, you're kind of like Nene Leakes or something like that, and she's like, that's not true. And I hate that the TV is making it seem as if we're all alike, or this is who represents us. And she says, one of the talks where she talks about how Monique, even her reality show, when with the Flavor Flav cast, the School of Charm, where she had them strip them of the names that they were called, the names that might have degraded some of those cast members, how they were identified by their looks, or, maybe what he wanted to do with them, as he fantasized on them or things like that. So I thought this chapter was worth noting, just talking about how the representation of Black people on television, how we don't always want to be seen as people that we're all the same. You can't put us all in one box. So that's my 2 cents on that part.
In this chapter, she definitely dispelled the myth of the ratchetness that we usually see that comes with the reality shows.
Yeah.
How when they give you, or when they tell you how to act, like they told her to be this insatiable Jezebel.
Right.
And so, she did let us in on that. Like, this is how they tell you to act, and this is what they want. So, all the righteousness that you see on them, or the fighting, or the coming out of character, that's not who they are. It's exactly what they tell you to do in those.
And then she was like, they left some scenes out, like, or if it was maybe too ratchet, or because I think she got in it with one of the girls, and they left it out because they said she they might portray her as being too ratchet or whatever and stuff. So they put out what they want you to see.
What they want you to see.
Yeah, right. and that's, when reading this is like, oh, okay, so they piece together, like we already knew that stuff was scripted, but they take pieces of it and put it together before we see it, and she just spells it out for us.
Right. definitely just for entertainment.
Right.
Absolutely, it's for entertainment, but it also made me see, okay, it makes sense now why a lot of there have been a couple people who I made, are my friends, or just people when we talk about when we talk about reality TV, I understand now why they say they don't want to support certain shows, because they don't want people to maybe immediately label all Black people as, oh, this is how they act. I mean, that's not true. On page 44, this is the page I was trying to get to, was how her, us being as a Black, you can kind of decipher the two, like, okay, that was fake, that was scripted, that's not true. She didn't, you can kind of see that, okay? But she's saying however, she can put the distinction, make the distinction. Which is, however, not everyone can make the distinction. My Black friends and I were not the only ones watching the show. And she was talking about I Love New York. According to an article from the Daily Beast, in a 2017 Reuters poll, 40% of white Americans reported not having any non-white friends. To this day, whole sectors of the United States do not know any Black people other than those who cross their television screens or come into their headphones. Some specifically seek out these Black stereotypes for entertainment, knowing and not caring that the salacious Jezebel and angry thug are indeed
caricatures.
She froze.
I was like, yeah, I know, right?
Are you guys able to hear me? It seems like my connection keeps going.
Yeah, you froze.
It keeps going in and out. But to surmise what I was saying, it really just goes into how representation on our screen really matters, and how she drove the point that, all of us, on TV, on social media or whatever, using our influence for the good. So, does anybody else have another point that we want to share? I can't believe we're almost crossing an hour of chatting.
Really? Already? Oh, we halfway through the book.
It's really going, but so maybe we'll talk about what's one of the.
I don't know what chapter it was in, but I think was it Peter? I know we were talking about it. Was he the one that came on and he was racist, and they ended up finding out later on his social media page?
Yes, was this he was one of the contestants?
Yeah, because I think she liked him, but ended up finding out, how he was. And then she was saying that she wondered if the crew knew. And, because they have to do a background check, but like all his social media, all the stuff that he had on his out there, it's like, wait a minute. They had to know he was like that before they cast him, because when they cast him, remember he got into it with some of the other Black cast members, and they didn't, boot him out. They kept him on, he was doing some racial, slurs or whatever and stuff. So it's like, okay, they brought him on because they wanted him to be, I guess, the one that caused drama. They always need somebody for the drama. But it's like, how could you bring someone on that's racist to be with a Black woman? And he never even, I don't even think, dated a Black woman before. And then I think when she met his family, they ended up dating, and her bringing him around dates with interracial relationships or whatever and stuff. So it's just, I don't know, that chapter, bothered me, like, oh, okay, you guys wanted something to happen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's what made me
that could have went left real quick.
I wanted to see who Peter was after I read that, because like I said, I don't watch the show, but
yeah,
I wanted to see who Peter was after I read
they didn't give Peter last name, because I would have tried to Google.
And it might not even be his real name.
Peter might not even be his name, right?
Right. But then it's like, was he on there just for the money? Because I think he was like, what's going to happen after the show? Like, was he doing it? I don't even think he wanted to really be in a relationship, because he wanted to know, like, what's going to happen after I do this show.
Mm-hmm. He was looking for a comment. Be an actor.
Yeah.
Some things should not be for entertainment. And when it comes to race and racial slurs and things of that nature, I don't think that should ever be displayed as a form of as humorous or a laughing matter, because it's very serious, and the times we're in is very much telling of how much more we're having to fight for equality and being able to speak on the importance of diversity and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud to be in this day and time, because I feel like we as a people, in multiple different races are really taking it by the bullhorn and trying to make our voice heard as loudly as possible. Whenever I see the protests about equality, when it comes to just making sure that making people understand that the scale is not even when it comes to race and just and things of that nature, it makes me proud to say I live in a time where we're not afraid to say, look, you're wrong. Like, no, stop looking at us. Stop saying equality means, oh yeah, we're going to give everybody an even playing field, when the reality is the playing field is not even. There are it's like that. I don't know if you've ever seen that meme where there was one race that they started at the finish line, but the black person or another race, they were starting at the finish line, but there were several stumbling blocks just for them to even start the race or whatever, while one race was able to just swift through the entire relay without a sweat, while everyone else was having to fight through this and gotta break this and jump through hoops and all of that good stuff. And the reality is, like, yeah, you might say it's an even playing field, but the reality is there's so much more struggle or so much more opposition in our way to get to what it is we're trying to do and the ladders we're trying to climb. So acknowledging that, as I think is the first step in diversity, and making a laughing matter, to Jeff's point, on television or whatever it was that he said, I don't think should ever be, whether they intentionally put him on there, I don't think that it's insensitive. So
she said that they did in the chapter Clarity and Closure. She really believed that they casted a racist contestant because she was the first Black female. What page was that?
Was that 193?
Let's see. Clarity and Closure is 193. Yes. Yeah. On I read that. I know I read that.
I think I know what you're talking about.
About Brian and Matt. Okay. She said that they chose a racist. She believed that they chose a racist contestant.
Yeah. Who was it that shared the last topic? Was that your topic? That was Sharice. Tasha?
Yeah, that was mine. Yeah.
Tasha, do you have another point you want to just?
And that are we staying there? Or are we moving to another? You want to go? All right. So I love the Into Sanity. Did y'all like that one?
Yes.
Page 137.
137.
I was always apprehensive of the term strong Black woman because it dehumanizes us and makes it seem like we don't hurt. Mm-hmm. And that was quoted by Taraji Henson. And she said, you ever find yourself perpetrating a positive stereotype about your community while there are some negative assumptions that have you side-eyeing someone or shooting an email to HR? There are others that are a source of pride or at least make for a good joke. When you belong to a marginalized group that must fight against a registry of offensive and harmful generalization, sometimes you cling to the rare stereotype that inherently endows you to some spectacular trait and gives you an edge over others. Who doesn't want other people to presume that they are prematurely attractive? Preternaturally attractive, industrious, and otherwise gifted in some way. You sit with folks and you laugh about it because you know how we are and how we do. So I particularly like this chapter because she, I think she was just her authentic self. Now, not that the rest of the chapters wasn't, but this one, she kind of got a little bit vulnerable and transparent, more into the feelings of how she really, felt about being in all of these relationships, all of her pursuits. And so I kind of like this one and how she talked about being a kid. So this one kind of put some clarity, I guess, to how she went about, how she keeps getting into these relationships or making these choices and all of this stuff. So that was my favorite one too. I had a couple of favorites.
Yeah, strong. Did you have something in this chapter as well, Sharice?
No, not that I can remember.
I loved that quote by Taraji, and it really, this is where I thought you said that the book was also an awakening and kind of just eye-opening in many ways. That term strong Black woman. And I think, and I guess the context in which you want to use is, oh yeah, we're survivors. I'm like, I don't want to be the one that, like, I survived through that, or we survived
all the time. All the time.
I always get that there was a war happening, I don't always want to go through war. Why can't there be peace? But in page 150, she talks about that. I'm not just a strong Black woman, so don't just tie me to that term, strong Black woman. She says, I am a real human being. Like, the importance of acknowledging that, yeah, I'm a strong Black woman, but I'm also human. That just because I'm strong and, I might have gone through the fire and the flood and the rain and all of that. I'm still human. I'm still a real person with emotions, and those emotions should be acknowledged. And that's often what ties to these emotional ties that we can't break, because we're always feeling like, oh, well, I'm a strong Black woman, I can overcome this. And the reality is, no, that's a false sense of, that's just a false way of looking at life in general. Some things you just have to say, look, no, this hurts, or I need to step back. I need to realize, I need to reevaluate, this relationship or where I am right now, because I don't feel good where I am. And it's okay to acknowledge that. Sometimes just saying I'm a strong Black woman, it doesn't suffice. So
Right.
this chapter really spoke to
Oh yeah, this was a decent chapter, because this is where she came to light, because she was dating Ed for so long and they weren't getting nowhere, and she's like,
yeah, exactly.
yes,
Checking stuff off her list, like, okay, I need a husband. She got the dog down,
Exactly.
so stayed into this relationship with this guy that wasn't serving her anymore. Yeah.
right, yep.
She said that on page 150. She says, I'm a real human being with strengths and vulnerabilities, hopes and fears, standards and contradiction. Healing isn't linear, and it would take time and practice to dismantle my toxic impulses. But therapy enabled the first few steps. Accepting that the relationship wasn't doing anything good for me, and recognizing that it could never work because I wasn't even right with myself. Thinking that I knew what I wanted, I was going through the motions and checking things off the list. Great, I got the job I wanted. Now I got to get the husband that matches. What were nowhere on the list were my own desires, my own happiness, and my own self-worth.
None of it. Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, enough with the self-sacrificing because I'm a strong Black woman.
Right.
Be a strong Black woman, but acknowledge when there are times where I'm not my best self, or I need to take a step back, or I need to go talk to somebody about this. I need to spend more time in prayer about this. Acknowledging those things too. Because being strong Black woman does not exempt you from feeling. So, oh my God, we are literally at almost an hour. Let's talk about our closing. This was so good. Like, I could talk about this book forever.
Yeah,
it touches on everything. But is there what are some of your closing thoughts? I found the quote that I was mentioning that I feel like Sharmi and I would appreciate from Grey's Anatomy, is that it's actually in Plan A. But it happens to also be in my closing. So I will skip to Tashi or Sharice for one of you guys. Your closing?
My closing is going to go with the Plan A. Don't let what he wants to eclipse you with what you need. He's very dreamy, but he's not the son you are. You are. Yes. By Shonda Rhimes. So yeah, like I said, overall, this was a great read, a really good book, very relatable, and it just gave you the courage to keep pursuing her. I love her pursuit of her own desires, going after what she wanted, and not letting failed relationships or mistakes or past hurt prohibit her or have all these inhibitions to keep going forward. And so I love that, she's love. She shows love, and she was a great storyteller. All of the stories were very relatable, and overall it was a great read, and I would recommend this book.
Yeah. I enjoyed the book as well. I was glad at the end that she was able to find love. She tried going down the path that her dad wanted, her family wanted. And then in the end, after, doing therapy, having, failed relationships, she decided, you know what, I got to do me. She did her. She found where she wanted to be in life. She's happily married, and she's doing what she wants to do with her career. And I think that's what she's always wanted. And with her doing the reality show, she opened up showed us, how what happens in those reality shows. I think we knew, but she like opened some doors like, oh wow, we know now what, see what goes on in them. And, some of the things that I think that, that happened to her in the show, hey, I think it opened her eyes, made her stronger, and wish her the best. And like Tashia, I would recommend, it is a good read. And happy that she has her happy life and that she's happily married.
Yeah.
And hope like she got her little, what's his name, Isaiah, her
Yes.
best friend back, because he seemed like he was a sweetheart.
Isaiah, come back.
But
Right.
I failed to mention, I like the fact that she broke into this franchise that was not known for that diversity. I will
Yeah.
applaud her
Yeah.
on any level that she just, she was able to do it. She was able to do it, and it gave hope for someone else that may be in this, not so diverse world,
Right.
setting, society, or whatever.
Hey.
She's been trying to get over here for a minute.
Or close up. But yes, Rachel definitely breaking glass ceilings, removing the stigma on just Black people and how we show up in its entirety, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. But one of the things that I felt was so important, or just the book in itself, like her life and the journey that she's gone through, it really speaks to all of us and wherever we find ourselves right now. We've all been a place where life has redirected us, or maybe our mistakes have redirected us. And there are times we might feel like, okay, well, what's the point now? I'm just going through the motions. Because a lot of the chapters in a lot of part of her life has felt like, okay, well, I'm just going through the motion. And so finally, she realizes that all of her experiences were actually preparing her for this one moment. So I want to encourage everyone on the line that while you may not see what your experience is, or what life is teaching you right now, or the lessons or things that you've gone through in life, what purpose they've served, I strongly believe in the scripture that everything is working together for the good. So
Right.
trust that all of your experiences are being wrapped up together in one pretty bow, and it's going to be a present you weren't even expecting. So be surprised by it when it happens. Be like, oh my God, I went through this, and this is the purpose that it served. And and don't question like, well, why did it take so long? Appreciate
Right.
God's timing is perfect. There are no accidents. He's never late. He's never short on a penny. It's going to be right on time each and every time.
Right.
So trust where you are and take every lesson for what it is, and learn from it. Savor every moment. There's always a rainbow after the storm, and sometimes there's a rainbow in the storm. And take that is going to work out for you, and that is going to be good. And I'll close with this one paragraph that she notes on page 165, which happens to be in that same plan A. Sometimes what you believe to be plan B is actually plan A. Even though you might resist the new pathway, when God places it before you, you won't be able to shake its calling. One of the hardest yet most powerful things we can do for ourselves is overcome the assumption that everything worth having in life requires a struggle. Instead, find the courage to ask yourself if what you previously thought to be plan A, with all its friction and angst, should ever have been an option at all. This lesson is one from which many blessings continue to flow. Now, does this mean that plan B doesn't have challenges and lessons of its own? Girl, I done told you this is not a fairy tale. So
Yes. Get the book.
Yes. Good book.
Follow her on social media. Follow us on social media. If you don't know how to find us, if you're watching us on YouTube, we are on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook, and we are under A Woman's Voice Matters. On Instagram, we're at awvm.online. Stay tuned for all the amazing things we have coming up. stay tuned for our next Life of Books session in August. If you have a book recommendation, feel free to drop your comment below or send us a DM, send us a message. We'll happily respond with your suggested book read. And stay tuned for the next conversation. Our next podcast is coming out. We are heavy doing some work out here, and we want you to join us on the journey. So follow us as we continue to just grow together and become together. So until next time, you have an amazing Saturday.
All right. Bye, ladies.
Bye. Thank you for joining.